live from Main Street, USA, at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida. This is Fish Sean Wu, and you're getting ready to listen to the new episode of the Resort Loop with Tim and Bob. Key the starting music.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To our new passengers, aloha and welcome aboard.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again. This is Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
And this is exciting episode number 70.
Number 70. Hey, how about that fantastic intro from our good buddy Sean Woosley right there on Main Street?
Woosley always comes through.
Yes, he does. Well, it helps that he's like a mile and a half from the park, so it makes it a little easier for him to do that. So thanks, Sean. We appreciate that. And everybody who sent in their show opens. We really love those. Those are great.
That's right. We have some, but we could always use some more, so be sure to send your own in.
Absolutely. And we have a fantastic show today. Tim, you want to introduce our fantastic guests?
I would love to. I'm very excited about this, Bob. I know you know.
Absolutely, we are.
We've been talking about for a while. You know, we had our good friend Joe Quattrochi on the show for RunDisney.
Yeah.
And since we don't know anything about RunDisney, or very little.
Nope. No.
And through Joe, we were able to get the foremost authorities on RunDisney. Michelle Scribner-MacLean and Mike Scopa.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
That's our audience.
Woo!
Wow, thank you for that great intro. Fantastic. Foremost authorities, I don't know about that. But...
I thought you were talking about somebody else.
No, it's you. It's all you.
Listen, we have been listening to you guys' show long enough to know you guys know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So,
or at least we pretend really well.
Now, wait a minute. That's my line. So you guys have been, both of you have been running for a little while now. How long have you guys been running?
Well, I'm the newbie. I've been running since 2010, I think. And I've done about 25 RunDisney events on both coasts. I've done pretty much every RunDisney race except for Expedition Everest. I've cheered for that one, but I haven't run it, in the Tinkerbell.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And you, Mike?
Wow, I just did some quick math, and I've been running for 45 years.
Wow.
And I don't know how many Disney races I've done. Probably right around the same as Michelle. I've been doing the Disney races since before, or right around RunDisney started becoming RunDisney. Goes back a ways. I've done pretty much every one. Except I haven't run a marathon yet because I'm just not ready for one yet. But I don't know. I think probably between 25 and 30 races. Disney races. Anyways, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is amazing. And, of course, we were talking about you guys' show. Let our listeners know what show we're talking about.
We're talking about the Mickey Mouse podcast. Of course.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. Yeah. It is a very, very good show. Anybody who runs, and I will be honest with you, you guys have encouraged me to start running as well. So,
well, that's really good. That was our goal. Was to get you to run. That was our whole goal for the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Just me.
Just him specifically.
No, Mike and I realized that we had a lot of friends who knew a lot about RunDisney, and a lot of people were asking us questions, and our goal was to really support people who wanted to get out there running. Running Disney events can be a little overwhelming. Some of the races have 26,000 people, and so we thought that with all of our collective expertise, we could kind of help people to work on training and to train safely, and then to navigate when they get to the events.
Wow. Real quick, Mike, do you recommend that people run marathons on broken ankles?
Okay, now there's going to be a reason why you asked that question. Well, let me put it that way. I think that if they were aware that they were running on a broken ankle, I think that maybe they would be wise and decide to call it a day. But there are people, runners can be very stubborn. Put it that way. So
Now, was that, of course, I'm kidding with you, but was that a 5K that you ran with the broken ankle, or a half marathon?
it was, I would say it was about 5 miles into the 2006 Walt Disney World Half Marathon. And what happened was that I was... It started off as a pretty cold morning, and then, as any runner would tell you, once you get into a rhythm, you begin to heat up. And so I took off a sweatshirt, and I didn't want to stop running, and I happened to step on a bottle or something, and I thought I just twisted my ankle, and I didn't go down. I almost went down. I just kind of stumbled a little bit, and I said, well, I'm going to keep going. And I kept going for another, I want to say 6 miles, and then I came across this paramedic, and he had biofreeze, and I said, hey, could you spray my ankle? I think I kind of twisted it. He said, well, you're going to have to take off your shoe. And I said, no, I don't think I want to take off my shoe. So I just kept going, and I remember one friend saw me, sprint to the finish, and she said, are you sure you had a broken ankle? And I said, well, I didn't know until about a month after I came home, and my foot was still bothering me, and I took a trip to the doctor, and the doctor said, you have a singular fracture of left ankle. And I said, well, we got to get it fixed, because in about 90 days I have to run a back-to-back, Run Disney weekend. So I don't want to tell people to run on broken ankles. I really think that if I had known I had broken it, I most likely would have stopped, because I would have worried about doing more damage, and that's the key.
Oh, absolutely.
I like how you say most likely.
Possibly.
Yeah, you sir are a maniac. That is amazing. Oh.
Well, Len tells the story that he ran, I don't know if it was the half or the full.
Who's Len? Got to tell them who Len is.
Len Tester, who does the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World.
No, not
Len
him.
was running a race about a year later, and he actually, I think he got dehydrated, and he was in the tent. He was in a medical tent, and I don't know how many miles he was away, but he said he got up and he finished the race. He said, because if Scopa can do it on a broken ankle, then I can do it dehydrated. So, so he's another maniac too.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
That is.
You inspire many people, Mike. So,
Well, thank you.
how many? Kind of give us an idea. How many Run Disney events are there?
Oh boy. Let's see. There's the January race weekend. There's the Tinkerbell out in Disneyland. There's the Princess. There's Expedition Everest. There's the Disneyland half weekend with the Dumbo Double Dare. There is the Tower of Terror, the Wine and Dine, and that's it so far. And there may be some other interesting things coming up in the future.
Oh,
Expect
something new?
another one sometime. We expect that there's a very good possibility that there is another. I'm guessing a half marathon coming up in about another. Oh, I don't know, 20 months or so.
We're thinking maybe Paris is coming up on the radar.
Oh, really?
But all those race weekends are not just one race. It could be, depending on the race, it's a 5K. Some of them have 10Ks. Some of them have halves and fulls. The one full marathon is in January, but it's kind of neat because it's really turned into a family event. Families can run 5Ks. I have my son running the 5 and 10K with me in January. So, and there are also kids races on those weekends as well for many of them. Not every weekend, but so it's a big deal. It's turning into a really big deal.
Yes, it is.
That's the big one where they had like 50,000 people there or something, some crazy number.
Yeah, I believe that last year there were something like, if memory serves me, there were a total of 56,000 runners. Now that doesn't mean 56 separate runners, but there were 56,000 people who signed up for races total. So
Wow.
it's quite a brand that has really been built really well and continues to grow in popularity. And what has amazed us over the last several years is that the registrations seem to close much faster than they have in the past. And with the prices going up. It's just an amazing brand that everybody loves.
And you know that too, Tim, because I heard your podcast where you were saying you tried to sign up. Well, you need to sign up super fast, especially for inaugural races. Those inaugural races go really fast.
Well, how soon do I need to look ahead?
It depends on the race. So what race are you thinking of?
The one that's the furthest out.
So the one that's the furthest out would be Tower of Terror. And the races open up about 8 months or 9 months ahead of when they're scheduled. And you can look on the Run Disney site. There's like a little thermometer there that tells you how full it is. But if you really kind of have to start planning a year in advance, because you have to, plan your flight and your park tickets and your hotel and everything. But I would say that depending on the race, I would say 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, well, there's one more thing you have to do. You have to rob a bank before you choose your race, because, like I said, it's very, very expensive. Michelle is exactly right. It's around 9 months. Around 9 months is when registration opens, and they usually announce it between 9 and 11 months prior to the actual date. So,
do you want me to tell you how much I'm paying for the Dopey?
Oh, please do.
Now, exactly what's the Dopey? Isn't that like 2 or 3 races?
It's 4.
Oh, my goodness.
So it used to be an unofficial thing where people would run the Goofy, which is a half marathon, and the next day run the full marathon. But they'd also run the 5K, and Disney didn't have a name for that. But people who did those 3 races, they would call it the Dopey. It was unofficial. Well, Run Disney made it official this year, and they added another race, the 10K. So people running the 5K, the 10K, the half, and the full 4 days in a row. It's called the Dopey. And I'm doing that this year. And it cost about $500.
Wow.
Wow. Just for the race.
Races. So,
Races.
yeah. So you get the 4 medals, and then you get a Goofy medal because you're running the Goofy, and then you get an inaugural Dopey medal, and then you get 6 race shirts too. So.
Well, I did notice that the prices are pretty high. What do you get when you sign up for that? For any of the races, typically, what do you end up getting? You get
you get a few things. Strictly speaking, you get a shirt and you get a medal. So even when you do the 5K, you get a nice, like, really vibrant colored 5K shirt to remember your race, and you get a kind of a plastic medal. But it's really exciting and fun. But the other thing that you also get is you get Disney entertainment along the way. So, for example, the Wine and Dine Half Marathon that Mike and I are doing next week, one of our friends, one of the race announcers, Carissa Bielert, told us that there are going to be 30 different character stops along the way for that race. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So you're paying for that entertainment. But I think what you're also paying for is Disney organization. It's very safe race. There are a lot of water stops. There are a lot of medical stops. It's highly organized. There's also an expo with every race too, and so you're not just paying for that medal and that shirt. You're paying for a lot more.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing is that you're like Michelle said, you're paying for entertainment. And when it comes to these type of events, I coined a term earlier today on a show we recorded, and said you could almost call it Fun Disney, because there's a lot of fun in these races. And I think that runners who approach these races with a certain perspective, I think, get the most out of their registration fee, because it's not a serious kind of a race. You really shouldn't try to do run the fastest you can. You want to have a good time, and you want to finish upright. Michelle, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say too is that it's a really nice way. You, Tim and Bob, I'm sure you guys love Disney, or you wouldn't be doing this podcast. And we're always, for people who like us who love Disney, we're always trying to find another way to get to know our parks that we love. And this is just another way, because you get to run backstage sometimes. You get to see characters that you wouldn't see sometimes. You get to, you get to meet different people that you wouldn't meet. And so it's just really, it's a very fun way to get to know Disney in a different way.
Yeah, that sounds very memorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we convinced you? Are you going to do it?
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that near the end, like how we go about starting. But
Okay.
So they have characters. Is the photo pass all part of that? Do you have a photo pass opportunity, or is it just something you have to carry a camera around? How's that work?
So there's not a photo pass, but we anticipate that with the magic bands. I ran with my magic band for the Tower of Terror 10 miler. That's something that I would think that if RunDisney's thinking about this, they will add the photo pass. But usually what people do is they just bring their own camera or their own. I run with my phone. I just have a little pouch, and there is a cast member there who will take pictures for you. Or somebody else in line will take pictures for you. And it's usually it goes super fast. It's like 15 seconds, 20 seconds a person, and then they're on their way. So, I mean, one of my most memorable pictures was with the grave diggers from the Haunted Mansion.
Oh.
And so they had their shovels that they use in the parade and Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And one of our friends, lay down in front of them, and we kind of all, so it's people who you don't necessarily see, but super, super fast pictures. And there are floats too. Animal Kingdom sometimes has animals. Things from different parades are out.
Well, and for for the Wine and Dine half marathon, when we run through Disney's Hollywood Studios, we run through the streets of America. They will have the Osborne Christmas lights up and running.
Yes, with the music on. It is like.
Wow.
Yeah, you just, if you're like me, I get teary-eyed about everything, but I get teary-eyed every time I run through the castle, and that's another time. You just walk because you don't want it to end.
That's true. You walk, really.
Oh, that sounds
there
crazy
you go,
cool.
Tim has never been there during Christmas, so maybe that's what I'll drag you down there.
Tim,
run
come on.
I know.
Get moving.
Okay, so I got a question for you. As far as like the pictures and all that, I run, and I just started, so I don't run real fast or any of that, but I run about a 11-12 minute mile, and stopping to get pictures. How does that? Is there a certain time that you have to have in order to run the marathons? Does Disney require a certain run time, or how's that work?
Well, since the beginning of time, Disney has established a minimum pace of 16 minutes per mile for everyone who participates in a Disney race. It does not matter what the distance is. Now, for 5Ks, they pretty much throw that out the door because they're called fun runs. And usually with families and such, they don't hold you to that. Now, one of the things is that with that pace, everyone worries about that. And this is a good time to explain how that works. So that pace clock, that 16-minute per mile pace clock, does not begin in any race until the very last runner in the very last corral. When the runners gather before the race, they're put in corrals depending upon how fast you run or your experience. And so what they do is they release the corrals one by one. And when that last corral is released, when that last runner crosses the start, that's when the 16-minute per mile pace requirement begins. So in actuality, you could actually go 20 minutes per mile and not get picked up. So people need to understand that. But it's always good to keep your eye on the clock just in case.
Now, do you guys know what a corral is?
I know that's it's based upon the times that you say that you run, and they put you in different times. But I don't understand how it's all put together now.
Yeah.
So a corral is just like it sounds. It's where they gather the runners together. So the fastest people are going to be in A, and then all the way down to up at Wine and Dine, they're going all the way to L. So that's 12 different corrals, and it's a little bit more than the time you say. If you just say you're a certain time, you're going to be in the last corral. But if you have prior race experience, whether it's a RunDisney race or your local race, anything above a 10K or above, you can submit it when you're registering, and that's called your proof of time, and they will put you in a higher corral. And it's worth it to go in a higher corral because you have a little bit more time to stop and take pictures if you want to. If you're not feeling that great and you want to slow down. I know for me doing the dopey for the marathon, I want to move up to the highest corral that I can so that on that fourth day, when I'm really feeling tired, I'll have the option of walking more.
But I can tell you that sometimes it's not good to be in the high corral. I had the opportunity to run out there in Disneyland in the 10K and the half marathon in the first corral, and it was like taking my life into my hands because those I mean, you're with Energizer bunnies, and they want to run real fast, and I'm not a fast runner. Not at my age, but what I was able to do is get a bib from someone who was not going out there, so he happens to be a very fast runner. And I can tell you guys that being in that first corral is, it was an interesting experience, but never again. Maybe the third or fourth corral back, that's about as high as I would like to be.
So you had people catching up to you pretty quick, is what you're saying.
I had, and I wanted to, enjoy the run, and so I got to run with some friends, and I got to do a couple of things, and got to run. What was nice about being up front in that first corral is that when we ran through California Adventure, I don't know what did they call that up there, Michelle? I forget. The World of Magic,
the World of Color.
World of Color.
It's the fireworks show.
And the water was coming. There were fountains with colors and everything, and it was still dark, so it looked really, really, really cool. If I had been maybe 7 or 8 corrals back, and they released the corrals every 5 to 6 minutes, then it might have been daylight, so I would not have seen that. So that was an advantage to being in the early corrals.
That leads to actually one of our questions from our good friend Joe Quattrochi. He says, this is from him. I had asked him, I said, we're going to talk to these guys. What do you want to know? And this was the big one that he wanted to know. He wears prescription glasses and sunglasses. So he was wondering how much of the race is in the dark and how much is in the daylight.
Of the marathon. He's doing the marathon?
He's doing the marathon in January.
Yeah. So those races start at 6 in the morning, 5:30, 6 in the morning. And it depends on how fast you run, right? So if you're running as fast as the person who won the New York City Marathon today, it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. So there won't be a lot. But if you're like me, who really goes a lot slower than that, I bring my sunglasses anyway. You don't start off with the sunglasses. There are lots of little pouches and things that you can buy to hold things, and so I would bring both. I have contact lenses, and I have sunglasses too, and I just bring them and put them on later on. But I made the mistake of this past year when I did my first marathon not bringing my sunglasses because I didn't want to have an extra something, and I wish that I had. So I have in every race since then.
Okay, all right. Do us a favor. Just kind of walk us through how a Disney marathon goes. Start with I know you got to pick up a packet of something like a day or two before, and then race day itself. Kind of walk us through what happens.
Okay, so let's say you have a let's talk about the upcoming next week, the Wine and Dine. So the runners will arrive a day or two before whichever race they're going to run, and they would go over to the expo. They would take their waiver. There was a waiver that they have to print out and sign, and they would go over and they would pick up their race bib, which they would wear on their shirt or wherever. They could wear it on their belt if they have a certain type of running belt. And in order to pick up your bib, you need to show the waiver. You need to show photo ID. So you would go to the usually it's the HP, the Milk House. It's called the HP House, I believe. Is that right, Michelle? Yes.
Yep, at ESPN. Mm-hmm.
At ESPN, World of Sports. And then you would go from there. Then you usually have to walk over this plate to verify that the bib and the the tag that's on there is actually yours, so it'll identify you as Mike Scopa or whatever. And then you then go to the expo, which is on the other side, which is, I believe that's called it's named after a ring company.
Justin.
The Justin Ring.
Justin
Justin
Center.
Justin Center, and then you get your race shirt and everything, and that's where the expo is. And then you've got all your stuff, and then there are final instructions that are sent out to every single runner, and you also get a packet with your running bag and everything that tells you what you need to do. And that usually will say all runners are expected to be in their corral by a certain time. Now, when you're running a half marathon or a full marathon for the morning races, which are in February and in January, usually, and this is something that when I tell people, when we mention to people, they say, "What? You got to be kidding!" And no, you set your wake up call is around 2 a.m. So with a 2 a.m. wake up call, that allows you about an hour to get ready, and then you're leaving your room at around 3 o'clock, and you want to get to the gathering area around 4 o'clock, and then it's usually around another hour or so, maybe 45 minutes, where they begin to call the runners to go to the corrals. Now, to get from the gathering area to the corrals is about 1.25 miles. So you walk the 1.25 miles, and then you wait in your corral until it's time to release, and then you're off on the race. So it's a very, very long day, and you can well imagine that because of the time that you wake up, that you have to be very careful of what you have to do the day before the race. Michelle, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I want to say, too, that gathering area is really exciting. There are a lot of, there's a DJ there. It's, everybody's nerves are kind of on edge. And then that walk to the corral, even though it's 1.25 miles, it's exciting and fun. And then with each corral release, they have fireworks that go off. So it's pretty exciting. And then the hosts who have actually been on our show, Rudy Novotny and Carissa Beeler, who I mentioned before, they will count people down, and usually they have a fun script that is themed to whatever the race is. For example, for the Tower of Terror 10-miler that we did last month, they were dressed in hotel staff outfits, and they had, the Tower of Terror music, and it was all, kind of spooky and fun. So this is exactly why we have the podcast, right? I'm sure when we talk, it's pretty overwhelming to hear all this, but I also want to pick up on what Mike said, how fun the expo is. So the expo is, if you've ever been to a conference, an expo is a place where vendors sell different things. And the expos at Disney are the best running expos that I've ever been to. So they have any sort of running stuff that you would want or need or didn't even need is there. It's like Christmas for runners. And I always save my extra pennies to buy something there. So that can be very overwhelming too. It's the whole bottom floor of the Justin Center, thousands of people, a lot of specials on things that you wouldn't get online, from whatever vendor. That could be 10% off or some sort of a discount. So it's very cool if you like to shop for running clothes and stuff.
So it's got to be a pretty high energy level the whole time you're down there. You're doing the expos. You're excited about that, even though you're getting up at 2 a.m., which that might be a deal breaker for me, Mike.
Starting at 4 days in a row for 4 races.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It is, it is. But you know what the most interesting thing is that when you're at Disney, you're there to tour the parks, and you really, for these long races, you need to stay off your feet. So if you're with your family and they want to tour the parks and you need to stay off your feet, it makes it a little tricky. So what we recommend to people is that maybe you come a few days before your family, or maybe you put the bulk of your vacation after the race, because you can kind of be torn if you have to, if you're running your first marathon and you want to stay off your feet. So it can be tricky.
What's the pasta in the park party?
The pasta in the park party is one of those options that runners are given, and actually more than runners, I believe that anyone can join, and it's for a fee the night before. I'm not sure if it's the night before or 2 nights before. a race, you and your family can go into a area and enjoy a very, very carbo-loaded meal. And a lot of people sort of shy away from that because the runners are very careful about what they eat, and they are very careful about putting something into their bodies that they're not used to. One of the things we always say about running is that on race day, you never do anything differently than you've done in your training. You don't put on a brand new pair of shoes. You don't wear a new pair of shorts. You don't wear a new pair of a new running shirt. You don't enter the race having the day before eaten something that you normally would not eat if you were going out for a run. So a lot of people shy away from it, but then there are a lot of people who do go to it. It's fairly expensive. I don't know what the price is. I want to say it's about $39 or $40 per head.
Yeah, we did do a show on it. I don't remember what episode it was, but our friends from Colorado, Jill and her friend, I can't remember what her name is, but they enjoyed it. But it's an extra fee, and there are characters too. So we haven't done it.
No, and one of the reasons why we don't do it is because it's probably one of those things that adds to the schedule. And when you go down there, and especially for January, there is going to be a lot of runners who will have a very rigid schedule. We did a show on that, and it becomes real serious. We kid around about the 4 races, and they added a 10K, which is 6.2 miles, and you would think it's only a 10K. It's only 6 miles, but when you think about adding that to 39 miles that you're running anyways, and you also think about, well, that's another day that I have to get up real early, you begin to think about how serious it is and how careful you have to be and how much planning goes into 4 days.
But I just want to underscore that you don't have to do these crazy long multiple races. You can start with a 5K, and it's awesome experience. It's so fun. I got my son running. He did his first 5K when he was about 10. Loved it, and now he's coming back and doing the 5 and 10K with me. So it doesn't have to be these. You don't. The thing I've learned about Disney races is that runners come in all shapes, sizes, ages, and you can have any body shape and do the 5K and do the half too.
Cool. Do you find that the 5Ks sell out quicker?
Oh yeah, yes. I wouldn't say quicker. I think the half sell out more quickly, and any inaugural race is going to be the fastest. But the 5Ks definitely sell out.
Okay. And do you recommend staying on Disney property, or is staying off Disney property okay as far as like getting to the races?
Well, for every race event, for every race weekend, there are host resorts which allow you to take bus transportation, Disney transportation to the race site. And for a lot of people, don't want to worry about driving or whatever, so they like to use Disney transportation. So all they have to do is get up, get all this stuff together, bang, get on the bus, run the race, and then get on the bus to come back. So if you're off property, that adds more time to you're getting there. So maybe that 2:00 wake-up call is now a 1:30 wake-up call, and just getting there, and there are just long lines. It's just amazing. It's just amazing, Bob and Tim, to be at Epcot at 3:30 in the morning and see about 30,000 people there. It's just amazing. And I can tell you that the parade of people that come off the monorail is just amazing. So the ideal thing would be to stay at a host resort for whatever race you're going to, and then you don't have to worry. If you want to take Disney transportation, you can take it. If you rent a car, you can take your car too.
But you're absolutely fine if you stay off property too. It's preferable to stay on property, but you definitely would have to have a car and get there early.
Right.
There's parking there.
Right. Yeah, you're adding time to your race. So okay.
Now, if I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, just gonna say. So, if we're racing and say my family or friends are there and they want to see me run, which trust me, they're gonna want to see. How would they go about it? Can they only catch it in one spot? Can they move around to different locations?
Well, it depends on the race. For a 5K, it's really at the beginning and at the end that you're going to see a runner.
Okay.
For something like a half marathon, depends on where the half marathon is. Let's take the route that is for the January race and the Princess, which is pretty similar. You can see your runner many, many different places. You can go on to Main Street and see the person. Mike and I actually cheered there last year. It was really, really fun. Right in front of the castle. There are places where you can go near the Ticket and Transportation Center. You can go near the Grand Floridian. And then there's something called, what is it called, Mike? I don't remember what it's called. There's a cheer package, a cheer squad, a Disney cheer squad that your family and friends can pay extra. And it puts you into the stands at the finish line. And also there are premier spots for example, for those two races on Main Street where you could see the person coming out of the castle, and those people get T-shirts too. Just to do a little plug for a good friend of ours, Dave Allen has a book called Race Chase. It's an e-book, and it's actually gives people tips on how to cheer for Disney races. But yeah, your family and friends can see you at many different spots if they do a little planning ahead of time. The race courses are all published ahead of time. And if you're looking at something like the marathon, Mike can speak to this because he cheered for me for the marathon. It's going through 4 different parks and ESPN when you're doing the marathon. So how many times did I see you, Mike? 4?
Well,
5?
The marathon is different. I was injured last January, so I had the exciting task of going around and cheering to everybody. But it was kind of cool to see everybody. I knew so many people running in the race. It was nice to cheer them on. So for the marathon, I saw Michelle at the Ticket and Transportation Center. There's a certain area that the runners come down as they run underneath the monorail, and I saw her and many of my friends there. And then as soon as she left, I immediately scooted over to the Grand Floridian and saw her there. And then as soon as she passed me and a few of my other friends passed me, I went and I made a beeline for the studios area. Actually, it's called I believe it's called the Boardwalk Path to Boardwalk and to Epcot. And I saw her there, and then I actually made it back to Epcot to see her finish. So there were 4 places, and it really helps if you know your way around Walt Disney World and you don't hesitate once you know where you're going. But you need to plan it out, and you need to move real fast, because even though some people may take 5 or 6 hours to do a marathon, it actually takes you that long to go around and to situate yourself where you can find your runner, and you want to be able to do something prior to the race so that you will be able to see them and they'll be able to see you. Maybe you'll have a sign, maybe they're wearing a red hat or whatever, and it makes it a lot easier. There are a lot of people who look forward to January because they love to do the cheering for their friends and family. Personally, it's boring. It's boring. I'll tell you, I'd rather run and sweat and be thirsty and hungry.
I have to disagree. We cheered for the half marathon last year. I thought it was so fun. So fun. But I have to say I felt as worn out afterwards as I did just running the half marathon. So I think that for people cheering, you're getting up pretty much the same time as your runner is. and if you want to go to the staging area at the beginning, you can stay there with them till they go to the corrals. But it's pretty grueling.
Do you have to use your own transportation to get around, or does Disney help out?
Oh no, you can use Disney transportation to get around. Mike used the monorail, right, Mike?
Well, yeah, you you leave your keys in your car. You can't move during
everything's closed down.
And the buses have exclusive use of certain roads. So the best thing to do is to use the buses and the monorail. I used the monorail quite a bit. When I did go from the Grand Floridian to the studios, I took a bus from the Polynesian to the studios, and that got me there really fast. And then when Michelle and a lot of my friends passed me at the boardwalk, I took a bus to did I take a bus to Epcot? I forget how. I think I did take a bus to Epcot, and I saw them there. So you do definitely make use of Disney transportation, but I also must caution everyone that there's a lot of people who cheer, and you think about there are 26,000 people who usually run that marathon. Think of each person as having maybe 2 or 3 people who are cheering them on. That's 70 or 80,000 people who are using the transportation system. And when you think about, I don't know if either one of you have been down at Disney World when it's been real crowded, and when you come off the tram at the Magic Kingdom to the Transportation Center, if it's really crowded, there will be roped off lines that go up to the monorail. Well, they pretty much have those maxed out.
Wow.
For Marathon Weekend. It's become really crowded, and with this coming January being a 4-day race event, I expect that the crowds are going to be just insane.
I'll bet. Now, do you need tickets to get into the parks? Do you have to have tickets to get into the parks to cheer on your runner?
No, only to stay in certain areas. So, like their premier areas for the races that the cheer squad can stand in, like when you come right out of the castle. But Mike and I situated ourselves in a terrific spot, which was at the end of Main Street. The runners turn to the right to go into Tomorrowland, and we were right there. So we actually had a lot of runners stop and say, "Can you take my picture in front of the castle?"
Oh.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, so it was great, and that we didn't pay any money for that. And then everything's done before the 9:00 park opening. So with the limits on time, so the people who will not have made those time limits get picked up. They call them sweepers. The people who pick up the people who are just not making that time limit. Mm-hmm. So, Mike,
and the finish line is outside Epcot, so you don't have to, you don't need park admission to see your runner finish. So that's a good thing, and I think that's done on purpose. And they have grandstands. It's just an amazing sight. Coming through, you're coming through the chute, and you're running up the home stretch, and there are just people cheering, and you've got Rudy there, and they have what they call a runner's mat, which is placed about 50 yards from the finish. And so as the runners run over the mat, their B tag is read by the mat, and it comes on a monitor for the announcers, so they can call pretty much everybody's name. So that's a nice touch. So almost everybody, I don't think they call everybody's name, but almost everybody that runs a Disney race has their name called when they cross the finish line, which I think is a nice touch.
That is. Wow.
That is fantastic. Yeah. I've only got one more question for you. And that is, if you could only race in one race at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, which race would you race in? Ladies first.
Okay. I'm going to say my first race is still my favorite race. I never get tired of the half marathon route that we were just talking about that takes you from Epcot all the way through the Magic Kingdom. You go through the parking area, the parking where you pay for your parking. You go down past the Contemporary. You take a left backstage. You go onto Main Street. You run up Main Street. You take a right, go through Tomorrowland. Take a left, go through the castle, through towards Splash Mountain, and then a left down towards the Grand Floridian, and then back to Epcot. I never get tired of that. I think it's really fun. There are some stretches where there's some, it's not as exciting. Having said that, running my first marathon at Disney, all 4 parks, can't beat that either. But that half marathon still holds a place in my heart. And every time I finish, regardless of whether it's a 5K, whatever race I've done, whatever coast, I always get tears in my eyes. It's just very emotional.
Wow. For me, it's a tie. Between 2 races, which I think have very good themes. And one is the Princess Half Marathon in February. I really enjoyed that the first time I did it. This past February, it was very, very crowded. So it's sort of losing its shine. I like it because it wasn't crowded. It was themed. I like the idea that it was focused on the ladies. I really think that's a good deal. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of theming, and it's the same course as Michelle mentioned. You get to run up Main Street, and that's pretty cool too. But it's tied with, and I think Michelle's going to be surprised when I say this other race, I think it's tied with the Tower of Terror 10 miler. And the reason why I say that is that the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror 10K race is probably the best themed race.
10 miler. 10 miler.
10 miler? What
Not
did I say?
10K?
10K?
Yeah.
10 miler. It's probably the best themed Run Disney race. And they go all out with the theming, from the race announcers dressing up like something out of the Twilight Zone, with all the Twilight Zone references and theming. When you begin the race and when you finish the race, you're running under a canopy of lasers that go for about 100 yards. There's all these sounds and sights of Twilight Zone. There are all these there are characters, there are evil villains out that you never see. It's just very, very well themed. And the only thing that I don't like about it is that I'm not a nighttime runner, but let's face it, you can't run a Twilight Zone Tower of Terror race in the morning. So I think those two are pretty close. And of course,
Michelle is surprised that you said that, because you grumbled at the nighttime race.
Yeah, I do. I grumble and the reason why I grumbled is that because no matter what time of year, they tried it in September and then they moved it to October, and it's still very, very hot. So it's not fun to run in Florida heat. So that's an issue. But you don't have that in you shouldn't have that in January or February. But it seems like lately, over the last year and a half, every race seems to be very, very much surrounded by Florida heat.
These poor guys, we just talking their ears off.
No, tons of information in this. Tons.
This is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And really, everybody, if you have any questions about running or the Run Disney marathons, check out Mike and Michelle's website, MickeyMilesPodcast.com. They have all the maps for all the marathons. They've got great information on there. You got to check that out, and of course, listen to their podcast, the Mickey Miles Podcast. It's a great show.
Absolutely. Could I ask one last question? Actually, not last, but
no, sorry.
All right. Well, we're out. That's it.
No, go ahead.
No. So for each of you, if you could change one thing about the Run Disney events, what would you change?
Oh, I've got it. Go ahead, Michelle. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
No pressure.
I'll think on that one.
Well, today I did what we call a step back training run. Step back training run is a run that you do about a week or two before your big race. So with the half marathon coming up next week, I ran out and I did just about 9 miles today. And so I came back and I went into my refrigerator, and the choice recovery drink is chocolate milk. So because it's got protein, it's got carbs, it's got everything you need to recover from a race. So what I would love to do if I was John Hughes, race director, I would say to all those who are registering for a Run Disney event, in your registration form, you can check off a box. And that box means you're going to be charged an extra $5. That extra $5 means that when you pick up your race bib, you're going to get a special brown bracelet that they're going to put on your wrist. When you finish the race, you can take that brown bracelet over to a special area that has a refrigerated truck, and you can turn in your bracelet for a 20-ounce bottle of chocolate milk. That's what I would change.
Nice.
Very nice.
Oh my
You
goodness.
are quite specific, Mike.
Yes, he is. He is.
Awesome.
Well, I'm going to say if I could change one thing, it would be that the race fees would be less, because I would love to see more people running and not fewer people running. And I think that the race fees are getting so high that it becomes kind of exclusionary for families to run.
Well, but wait a minute. The thing is that even though the prices are going up, the registrations are closing much faster.
I know they are. They're having no problem selling them out, but I want more people to run. I want more people to have that experience. I'd like more races, but I would like the prices. I mean, I can do a half marathon around where I live in southern New Hampshire. There's one the day after Thanksgiving, and it's like $60. if I do one at Disney, it could be $150 or more. So, yeah. So that's what I would like.
Okay, great.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, that's all I got, Tim.
I think that's all I have as
You
well.
probably both need a nap after all that. Made your head spin.
No, not at all.
No, that is outstanding information. You guys have been fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much for being on.
We're happy to help anytime.
Excellent.
Looking forward to seeing both of you down there so we could run a race with you guys.
We will definitely be down there, and we will definitely look you guys up.
Absolutely.
We're always there.
Yes, we're always there.
Well, great. Michelle Scribner-MacLean, thank you. Mike Scopa, thanks again.
Welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Oh, our pleasure.
Where can we find you guys?
Running, usually.
A moving target.
You can find us at, we have a Facebook page, Mickey Miles Podcast Facebook page. We have, of course, our podcast. You can get it on iTunes. Among other places, we have MickeyMilesPodcast.com website. Have to give a shout out to our webmasters, Eve and Phil. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Mickey Miles Pod. And I think that's it, Mike. Is that it? And we're at most races, so we usually have meets at most races. Our next race is the Wine and Dine coming up next week.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, good luck
job.
at the Wine and Dine.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be
Wait,
tweeting.
we need to say one more thing.
Okay.
Okay.
That at last year's Wine and Dine, and I'm hoping that it's going to be also this year because last year I didn't get to do this. But Michelle, remember at the end of the finish, you get your medal, you get your whatever little box of goodies, and then at the very end, just before you get out of the race area, there are two large, I don't know what you'd call them, barrels or whatever, and each one has a special beverage that you're allowed to choose from. This was last year. Was there three, Michelle?
Yeah, there are three.
Red wine, white wine, or beer. Is that correct?
It was wine, a skinny girl margarita, or beer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's
Not that I was sampling all of them.
but that's a nice touch.
That's what the rumor was. Yeah.
So
That
that's what's
that
waiting
is
at the
great.
end of that race. So it just gives you an idea of what that extra touch is that Run Disney brand gives you. So I just wanted to give you that little last tidbit of.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Oh, excellent.
Well, that's all I got, Tim.
Oh, same here. I think we should wrap it up, Bob. I'm Tim Scott. I'm out. I can't talk anymore. Go, Bob.
You can find us on Twitter, Resort Loop Tim, Resort Loop Bob on the Twitter, Facebook /Resort Loop. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes and listen on the Stitcher. And Tim, just give us your last little bit there. You can do it.
You're listening to The Gateway to the Magic.
See you, everybody.